Hey Run Junkies, here is the Fortitude 10k race recap. If you followed me on Instagram or are in any of my Facebook groups, you kind of followed along and saw what happened this past weekend, and I'm not gonna bury the lead here. This was my fastest 10k race ever. And for all of the kudos and support and encouragement you guys have been giving me over the last week, I cannot thank you enough. I was flying high after this race. I was so excited, and you guys were right there with me cheering me on. So thank you so much for that. Okay, so here's the thing about this race. I could not sleep the night before, okay? I laid out all of my gear. I had a really good dinner and I went to bed on time. And I laid there and I stared at the ceiling for 2 hours. I tossed and I turned and I finally was able to get enough sleep. Not good sleep, but at least I slept a little bit. Because remember when I said this right here? Let's just get this out of the way right now. You're gonna be nervous, you're gonna be anxious, and sleep is going to be elusive. So we got up super early because we had to be on the road by 5:30 a.m. It's about an hour drive from Denver to Fort Collins where the race was. So we were up super early. Race start was just after 8 o'clock. I wanted to be there about an hour ahead of time. And the problem with that is that when you're in the car for that long, you're just sitting there thinking. I had done my due diligence, right? I did my research. I did a whole video about breaking down this race, and I really looked at this months ago, so I knew what I was in for. But as we got closer to Fort Collins, I thought, I have no idea what to expect out of this race. These were probably the most aggressive goals that I've set for myself. This sub 104 that I mentioned last week, that was more than I really have done in the last maybe 3 or 4 years. This was going to be a hard effort. I wasn't sure how willing I was or even capable I was of managing the mental and the physical piece of this race, because what if, I started second guessing myself, what if I got hurt? What if, with all of these Achilles issues that I've been having for the last couple of months, what if I damaged myself to the point that beat the blurch was at stake and wine and dine? This is all happening up in my head until I hit the start line. Guys, I was mentally absolutely jittery.
So you guys, my teeth are chattering. I'm so nervous. I don't know why. I honestly can't tell you the last time I've been this nervous for a race. We've got about 7 minutes before the first wave goes off, and I'm 10 minutes after that. I'm really... I'm good.
My heart was pounding, my mind was buzzing, my legs were itching to go. The weather was almost perfect. 57 degrees, light cloud cover, clear air, and just a slight breeze. It was absolutely perfect. And then the starting pistol goes off.
So show us what you're made of. Make sure you get that personal best today as you cross the finish line in Canvas Stadium. You guys ready? Off you go. Have a great run this morning.
So I start running and probably 30 people pass me in the first 100 meters. It was fine. I have a race plan. It was in my Garmin. It was gonna tell me what to do. It was gonna tell me if I was going too fast, because the first 2 miles were probably the most critical in that whole race. It was a net uphill, and I needed to kind of keep things under wraps so I had something at the end of the race. Because after that 2 miles, the course kind of stretched out a little bit, there weren't as many turns, and it trended downhill. So I'm running at a pretty good boil, and it's requiring a lot of concentration and mental focus to keep that going. There were several points throughout this race that I said, you know what, I could just, slow down to a walk. My legs are getting tired, this is getting hard, and maybe I could just slow down to a walk. And I had to shake that off. That was the mental challenge that I talked about in Tuesday's video, right? And that video, I think doing that video really got me ready for this race mentally, because I probably would have slowed to a walk or slowed down my pace, and I would not have made that PR had I done it. One of the last minute decisions I made that I'm surprised that I waited until last minute to make this decision was to carry water. I really should have thought all along, yes, I need to carry water. I brought water with me. I was able to skip all of the aid stations. I found a groove early in the race and I kept that groove throughout. Now the race itself was amazing. Fort Collins, the Fortitude 10K is kind of a hidden gem, and this was only the second running of this race. Here's a little perspective. If you were to compare the two big races in this series, Boulder 10K and Fortitude 10K, Boulder this May had 46,000 people in it. Okay, if you guys remember that race. This race, 6,000 people. There was so much elbow room in this race. I was able to run every tangent. And what I found was in other races, I have trouble with this, but every time I saw a mile marker and I was close to a mile marker, my watch would turn over that mile. So I was running so close to the tangents that I didn't go far over 6.2 miles. As I approached the stadium and the finish line, my plan was to, what my coach calls, empty the tank, leave nothing in the tank when you cross that finish line. So as I'm getting closer and closer to the stadium, I see it right in front of me, the last quarter of a mile. You are within sight of the stadium. And I'm running along and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to just amp anything else up. I think I'm almost completely tapped out. I get into the stadium and I'm like, okay, we can turn it up a little. We can turn it up a little. No, we can't. We can turn it up a little. And I come around the last curve, cross the finish line, and I am going as hard as I possibly can. It wasn't much more, but I turned off my watch and it said 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 3 seconds. I beat my A goal by over 2 minutes, and it was indeed my fastest 10K race of all time. So here's the thing about that, you guys. Here's what is so surprising to me about this. In the last year or so, really in the last few months, I've been trying to come to terms with the idea that I'm getting older, I may not be getting faster. So trying to find ways to justify saying, you know, it's okay if I don't PR anymore. I wasn't there yet. I hadn't really I haven't come to peace with that yet. I was still working on that. And then this happened. And at almost 45 years old, I can still all-time PR? What? I really thought those days were behind me. Add to that the nerves that I was dealing with, the lack of sleep, the anticipation, all of the aches and pains that I'm feeling, the Achilles issues, the fact that when I get up in the morning and I walk downstairs, I sound like a bowl of Rice Krispies. And I pushed so hard in this race. And here's the funny thing. I set those goals. I set an A goal, a B goal, and a C goal. I was not, I don't know how else to say this except to say that I wasn't 100% invested in them because it wasn't an end-all be-all. I had no idea what the weather was gonna do on that morning because the weather was going to be the factor that kept me from those goals. So I think I had taken some pressure off myself and I decided I'm just gonna do the best I can on this day. And I showed up to the challenge. And the best that I could give on Monday was better than I ever thought imaginable. So the Fortitude 10K is a hidden gem, and I hope it stays that way. Like I said, it's much, much smaller than the Boulder, and it's similar in attitude, in layout, in the fact that you finish in a stadium, the community involvement, all of those things are the same. The Fortitude, though, sets itself apart in so many other ways. It's nice and shady, it's wide open, it's flat, and it's fast, which makes it perfect for a PR. I shouldn't be surprised, maybe, that I did that, but I am. I'm surprised. If at all possible, I want to run this race again and again and again. And if I had to choose between Boulder and Fort Collins, I would choose Fort Collins every year. 6.2 miles of perfection. I couldn't be happier. And I've raised the bar. So I'm now wondering, what is next? Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up, you guys. Thank you so much for all of your support this week, but Let me tell you what's coming up this week on Running with Grace. On Tuesday, I will be talking about my best tips for finding that perfect pair of running shoes. And next week, I'm already headed up to Beat the Blurch. So before I go, I'm going to record my weekend update and plans around how I want to manage that race. So look for that next weekend. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that thumbs up if you like this video. Guys, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for watching. Go find your awesome. Until next time, happy running.